everybody, and welcome to another edition of Average Superstar TV. I am your host, Loren Lepre. Thank you again for taking the time to check out the podcast. I ask you to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. We have a new show that drops every Monday. And this week, we're back in the music world. My guest this week is very active in the music industry down in Nashville. She has a new album coming out called Helping Hand, and she has a bunch of singles coming out, including this Friday. Like I said I would, it will be her next single. This girl's got one awesome story. She's been around a long time. This girl plays her heart out. Her YouTube page is loaded with tons of videos. This girl's been around a long time. So with that, we're going to break down her life and how she got into music, etc. But with that, Clare Cunningham, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes.
A busy woman I am.
And that's good. That's the way you got to be. It's whether you're in music or film, like someone like me, like you got to be active, or you're just off the grid, you know.
Yeah, especially today, people are, got attention spans of fish, so you just have to be always putting out content. And I've always liked putting out a lot of material. Some folks say you shouldn't put out so much or as much, that coincide too closely together. But I defy all rules. I just do it until somebody tells me otherwise.
I think it's better to put out too much than not enough. I think it's a way better idea to be overplaying. And you are currently in Nashville, where everything's happening right now. So I think you're at the mecca of the country anyway for what you do.
For sure. Nashville is just such a great hub, and it's a place where you do not have to do solely country music to succeed or to make a living there, which is beautiful too. And it's especially after the pandemic, it stayed open. And so a lot of New York and LA decided to come down into Nashville and make roots there. So although I am currently right now in Florida, so but I'm just doing some festivals here. But Nashville is home.
It is. It's definitely, obviously, it was always an active place, but it's grown like hugely, hasn't it? I mean, it's constantly getting built up. People are constantly flocking there. I mean, I remember when the first time I went there was about 3 years ago, and I arrived driving cross country. I had a schedule, and I arrived on a Sunday at 10:30 in the morning, and I'm like, well, what city's open at this time? This is stupid. My trip's going to be blown. And as soon as I started walking down the street, I'm like, it's 10:30. There's a band playing. And then I walk up to two more stores, and there's another place. There's another band playing. It's a different style of music. I was like, I walked 2 blocks. I'm like, there's like 20 bands playing on a Sunday at 11:30 in the morning. And it blew me out of the water. I had an amazing time. Been back a couple of times since, but like, that's how amazing Nashville is with music. Sunday.
So, Nashville down on Broadway is 7 days a week, and it starts at 9 a.m. And the bands go all day till like 2 or 3 a.m. But like, that's not every venue. So that's just typically of Broadway. And then you have your original music venues and your other venues around the suburbs and just in the inner city. And, they have live music 7 nights a week too. But yeah, it's not as crazy. That downtown scene is that's a whole thing in itself.
Gotcha. So if we hit stop and rewind, you're originally from Ireland, right?
I am.
When did you know music was your calling?
Always. There was a time, I think I was 3 or 3.5, and somebody, it was either a neighbor, family friend, asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said a rock star. So it was something that I feel it was the only calling I ever had and the only thing I ever pursued. And I'm one of the blessed ones, because I went with what my calling was. Some people find it out later in life, and I was just feel very blessed that I always knew what I wanted to do and always went for it, So it kind of didn't make it easy, but it definitely made it, a lot more strategically possible to go and follow my calling.
So did you start playing like in your high school years? Like you were right out of the gate, always doing music?
Yeah. So before I actually was 6, I believe I was like 5.5, 6. I decided that I wanted to get a keyboard, which then transpired into the upright grand piano that still stays at my house back in Ireland. So I started getting lessons there, and then we have in Catholic, it was a Catholic school and church I went to. We have our first Holy Communion. So I think it was around 6, 7 years of age, and we all had to audition for the singing part of who was going to sing in between the prayers, and lo and behold, picked me. So that kind of sparked it. That was my first real public appearance. Still have a video of it. It's hilarious. And then it was school plays, and then that was it. I was getting picked for the singing parts, and I was that was the identity I kind of was progressing with. And yeah, then as soon as I got into high school, that like I knew that was a definite, I picked up, I think you guys called them a major. Like I did music as a major, and then out of that proceeded to continue music as education as well.
That's great. And you were going to a Catholic school during all this, and you want to actually be a rock star originally, huh?
Oh God. So like in Ireland, it's funny because I speak about this a lot, with coming back to my faith. I haven't left it. You're kind of forced. It's more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's something we just do because that's the done thing. You go to your Catholic school, you become an altar server, you go to mass once a week, church once a week, you say your prayers, and you don't really live or have a personal relationship with the Lord, which is kind of really sad, because that's majorly why I kind of left everything, because I didn't have a relationship. And as a lot of people have heard me mention before, like there was a lot of hypocrisy, and I just didn't feel very greatly connected. So yeah, I did become, I actually did end up like going into the rock industry and having a whole complete different career than I have right now. It's wildly, vastly different. And that's why anybody who comes to know me now in this present day and age, I always have that little disclaimer that if you do go digging a little, you'll find stuff that's
No, but I like that. I mean, you certainly have a rock star look. Like, if I was just to not hear your music and take a look at you, I'd be like, oh yeah, she's got to be in some sort of punk or metal band and stuff. But I mean, from going through the library so far that I have checked out of you, like you can kind of fluctuate everywhere. But you know what I mean? And like I like the "No Need for God" song, and like a real lot. I think that was like a beautiful. But but it's kind of great. I think it's kind of a real interesting story of how you start off at the Catholic school, going to a Catholic school, felt the hypocrisy, left,
yeah,
and then what you landed with some wrong people and stuff, and then you ended up coming back, and now your faith is restored. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's it really in a nutshell. It's been a beautiful, very long and interesting journey. And I see it from both sides now with people, because I too, very much like anybody who doesn't really have a personal relationship with the Lord, I hated, oh my God, I couldn't stand any evangelism or anybody who was like quote unquote preaching. And I was always like, oh no, there's a way better life out there, and it's witchcraft, and all the other gods that exist, you know. And I tried finding peace and happiness in the temporary worldly lifestyle that is very prevalent. And, you know, you can definitely, it exists. It's not like it's not real. There's definitely a whole other world out there. And for a short period of time, you can get some relief there. You know, whether it be substances, things, places, people, you name it. And that's why it can draw people in, because, you know, it does have a positive effect for a while, you know, but then you find yourself getting deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole of like, oh, so I went on that trip, but I'm still not better. So let's try another thing, and let's get another shaman, or let's, you know, and it's just, you're never satisfied, because nothing can give you the peace that resides within you. So, and I can say that with, like, you know, conviction, because I've been where I am now, and I've also been in that other world. And so it's kind of like, I feel like I get the opportunity to be able to give my perspective from both worlds. And I just know that this world is a lot more peaceful. Now, it doesn't come without its troubles. Yeah, because when you're walking in the light and you've left that world behind, you know, the enemy doesn't like that at all. That's why my song Saving Grace, I speak a lot about that, that, you know, the devil comes to attack you even stronger because he wants what he once had. And so it's kind of like a compliment almost when he's after you, because I know I'm on the right track and I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing my calling when I'm up against him all the time. And like, I know it sounds woo-woo to people who are like, oh, the good and the bad and the evil but like, you know, we live in a fallen world, whether you like to admit that or not. So, and I just know from my own personal life that I am victim to it a lot, but don't play the victim, you know, it's the wars.
Would you say you just went out looking at other, like exploring basically, and that's what led you there, or did someone have like an influence over you, almost like trying to recruit you into that?
Absolutely, a bit of both actually. My curiosity definitely led me down those different roads, and then certain people, definitely one in particular, decided to take complete advantage of that. The vulnerability and the want for me to like explore more was a gateway for somebody to go, okay, you'll be my muse then. And yeah, and that's sad, because I came to realize that a lot of the people, I used to go to like these energy healers and palm readers and all these people who like claim to do good, and I genuinely don't think they're out there in the world to do bad. I think they think they're doing good, but realistically, it's just, you're spending a lot of money and a lot of energy and time into something that's like, why would you want to contact the dead?
Yeah, I know. So it's fun. It's great what you just said there. I know so many, I hate to say it, but just a lot of them are girls that just are constantly going to these sidekicks because they want to hear their mom's voice one more time, and it never happens. And it's money after money. And I'm like, and some of them even had like, I don't want to say like, I'm trying to words right. They had a good death with their mother. I mean, they were there right to the end. They held their hand. They took care of them and all that. Like, how much more of a closure do you need? Like, what are you going, like, you know? So,
I do. And it's an unfortunate part of how psychics or palm readers and stuff kind of prey on that, you know, a little, like these energy healers and coaches and life coaches, they do definitely serve their purpose for people, but you're never going to get the answers you want. And like, even if you do, what are you going to do with it? Like, I mean, you know, it's like, and I can definitely say that because I used to do it. I used to do it all the time. I used to go to these people looking for answers and thinking this was great, and they were going to tell me all these things. And it's a world, it definitely exists. I'm not saying, I would never sit here and say, oh, that's just all fake. It's definitely not fake. definitely real. But I think if you live presently in the present world where you're alive, why would you want to contact something that's gone to get your answers when everything is in here? And like, I just know that because now that's
very good.
I
have like
for anybody who's watching, and I never think like I always say this even on my shows. I never want a single person to ever think that I'm sitting on a high horse, that I've got this all figured out, and I certainly do not. But I do know from living through all of that and being in that world, just the difference. Like it's night and day. It really is. And I'm not here to preach. Also, I'm not here to say don't do it. You do it. Fine, do your thing. But you know, you got to find your own way when it comes to finding the Lord and the peace that really everyone just wants.
So I'm going to stick with the Lord thing for a second. But when you were on the other side, how did you? What was the sign? Did you just feel in your third eye like I'm in too deep? This isn't what I thought it was going to be. To get out, was there someone there with you that was like, "Hey, I'm about to get out of this. Do you want to come with me?" Like, how did you turn and go back the other way?
Right. Good question. And a lot of people ask me that. And I think it was the combination of a lifestyle that just I realized it wasn't working for me. But it was one particular situation that really was kind of life-threatening. And again, very blessed, I managed to get out of it with the help of some family and friends. And that was when I was just starting to get all these signs. Like, I remember the day extremely well. I think it was the 9th of December, 2020. And I was sitting in the seat of my hairdresser, Linda, she's amazing. She's my mama, I call her. She's walked with the Lord for a very, very long time. In fact, most of her life. So whenever I was sitting in her chair talking about the universe and, you know, all these amazing drugs that you can take to bring you on these trips, she was just always talking Jesus. And I, for half the time, it was not registered.
Yeah.
No, like I was like, oh yeah, okay. And
there is that overdose. There is when you're getting too pumped with too much Jesus, where it's kind of like
it. And that's why I'm saying I wasn't receptive to it because it wasn't my world. And I was like, and she talked about the Bible, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're a weirdo. With respect, of course.
Yeah.
This is why I want people to know how far the other side I was, that I had wanted nothing to do with that kind of world, with Jesus and the Bible and all the good stuff. I was like, yeah, whatever. So, and I thought I knew best, you know. But that day in particular, I just remember it was a couple of months after I kind of got out of the situation I'd been in. And I talk more about a lot of that situation in my memoir, which is still a work in progress, but it's on my website. It's usually too much to go into in a conversation, but it was kind of.
For anyone to interrupt here, would be ClareCunningham.com. Is that how anyone could get
ClareCunninghammusic.com is my website, and you'll see there's a memoir on the About tab, and also there's a whole tab that actually has it as a separate thing. If anybody feels to read it or wants to know a little more information, it's just my life is very long. But that particular situation, after getting out of it, then I was ill, really, really ill, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Probably one of the worst states of my life I'd been in for a long time, and decided.
This is about 2020. I think you were just saying
2020. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I managed to get out of that situation mid-September.
Before I go, guys, when you say you're leaving that world, I mean, do they just say fine, get out, or are they like you ain't going nowhere? How's that work?
Yeah, they don't want you leaving. Like,
because you know too much and you can talk, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think, well, with this particular thing, it wasn't even like a cult, it was more of one person, but that they had like what I thought at the time was a lot of power, and they did make my life a bit of a misery for a bit. Not wanting me to have gone, and it wasn't an overnight thing where I was like, okay, now I'm leaving the cult world and the witchcraft world and I'm going to find Jesus. So it wasn't like that at all.
Okay.
But I was just so broken, and so like everything about me, I had just lost myself. And I didn't realize to what extent I was so ill and so broken, because now I know what it feels like to be like really like inwardly happy and a lot more healthier. So it took a couple of months, and even in those months, like I couldn't, I was, unfortunately, I was drugged a lot of it, and I became dependent on different substances to just keep me going on a daily basis, due to the fact that this person had kind of coursed me into that world. So that was like, I had to learn how to try and come off all of that and detox my entire body from all the stuff they had done to me. And I don't talk about this a lot. It's just, it was very traumatic. But it was at that time in December, sitting on that chair, I was just talking about how amazing it was and how lucky I was to get out of that situation. But little did I know, all my Jesus family, who I greatly adore, and they've always been there since day one, had all been praying for me, like praying for my salvation, praying I would just find the Lord. And there was just a big truck coming by and it said like, Jesus loves you. And I looked up in another corner of the room and it was like, God's got, there was just a lot of things that were already there that I never noticed before. And I'd been years in that chair. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this Jesus thing out. And it was a slow progression, like real slow. But he kind of revealed to me that like, I'm gonna quick fast, like you're gonna be on a quick pace here to get you to where I need you to be. So in the coming years up until even present day, people are like, it's crazy how, how fast you transitioned and how quick your spirit was just, and I learned to, yeah, you rebirth yourself. And I know it sounds so, odd to certain people, like, oh, you're reborn. Like, what does that mean? But you do, because you shed all the old parts of you and all your old ideas and your ways. And I am still learning. Like, I am still learning today, and I always will till the day I die, because you're never going to have it all figured out. But it teaches you to become a new creation, and it's beautiful. And I am way more prouder of who I am and what I've become today than I have ever done.
That's beautiful. And does the cult, and that person that was holding you back, do they officially leave you alone after a while, or are they still?
Yeah, I think they're in jail now. So
Good for them.
for a while.
For a while.
No, but all jokes aside, though, they're criminals, so this is what they do. So about 2 years, let me see, it was a year and a half, I got a phone call from an attorney, and there had been, I think, 5 or 6 others after me as well. So this is a continual, this isn't just something I was a one-off. This is,
Gotcha.
and that's only one instance. I've been in and out of different, not cults, I guess, but like similar stuff, tried and tested. Like there was a lot of other types of things, and I'll still get invites. I'm like, are you actually that like naive that you think I'm going to show up to a healing ceremony? Oh my God. I know, it's wild to me, but it's, yeah,
I guess they're just dangling the steak in front of you in case you're having one of those
Right.
thoughts that come back. Like, yeah, but
well, that's it. And I always talk about the temptation, and I do, and so in Saving Grace, and it's like that dangly carrot that's always just there, you know, and it's the temptation versus the like realization that's like, you know. But that's where the strength of letting go, and then you know, like what's right and what's kind of like what's wrong. You know, now I wouldn't even that. It just makes me laugh if I get an offer like that. But yeah, in your early transition or when you're kind of going, you know, and I guess that not everybody has that. Like I have got friends who have only ever walked with the Lord, so have no idea what goes on in this other, I like to just call it the other world because it really is. And I won't lie, because I've been there, I've had a few very unfortunate, you know, encounters even since all of this, you know, that have been also not life threatening, but, you know, I mean, I'm just like, why? Why does this stuff continue? Because I had a portal, I had that opening, and, you know, and it's a major factor as to why I have to keep a clean, sober spirit. And I have to be really mindful of who I hang out with and the things I ingest and the things I watch and the things that I do, because the devil's always lurking around, always looking. You know, he's on the prowl, whether you like it or you don't. Simple fact. It's just always there looking for somebody vulnerable. And, you know, that's why I have to be very, very, very careful with how I live my life now. So I don't really mind what others think of how I do things or what I'm doing, because I know, you know, that I'm keeping it as peaceful as I can. But like I said, it doesn't come without a struggle. And people will come out of the woodwork and have done. And they'll even use the name of Jesus to try and lure me in. So if certain people are watching this, it didn't work. Congratulations.
yeah. What so you're more unique because you kind of came from, you grew up going to a school like that, and then you went over to that side and you came back. So what's that like going full circle?
Yeah, full circle is one way of putting it, right? Well, it's called a circle of life, I guess, you know, and it's taught me a lot. And I know personally that I had to do all of that, and I went through everything. And even when I was, you know, Catholic growing up, and I was, you know, a good little Christian child, like the worst things happened to me then too. So God is always working where he needs to work. And this is why I'm always telling people, like, don't just think that like when you have them or when you're doing good, you're going to get good. Good people also go through tests and testing times
all the time.
And it's nothing to do, half the time, it's not to do with how you are or what you're doing. It's the Lord's way of like knocking on your door sometimes. And that's why when you mentioned No Need for God, like that song, that's like, if he always gave us everything we wanted when we wanted it, we'd never need him. We'd never have to lean on him. And so he gives us free choice. When we're born, we get free choice. And we can choose to live a life that's luxurious and you get all the things you want, and you can trample over people and you can do the wrong thing. But at the end of the day, judgment day comes. So, I mean, we all free running choice, free reign. And sometimes I'll take advantage of that and sometimes realize, yeah, that wasn't the right thing to do. So, you know,
that's just part of being part of the human race, though, in the journey of life. Like no one's going to pitch a perfect game, you know?
Absolutely not. And
I don't care what part of the country or part of this earth you're from. Like there's no You know too. You probably know people like I do that had such an easy ride, and then when they get in their 20s, here comes these bumpy roads because maybe they were sheltered too much, and I think that's another problem where you don't want to give people bad days like purposely, but some people don't understand the truth of what life is until they make it to their 20s and stuff. Once that shield is pulled back from their family and stuff, you're like, ooh, you don't know how to take a punch, basically.
Yeah,
maybe not physically, but you know what I'm saying.
Coddling children and making things super perfect for them really doesn't set them up for adversity. And so, honest to God, this is why I always say, regardless of how bad it was, and I know it was bad, people died and went through it. The pandemic, perfect example of anyone who really had no adversity or didn't know what it was like to lose anything or for something to be taken away so quickly. That really gave everybody food for thought, like worldwide, like thought. There wasn't a single person who didn't go through that and come out somewhat, stronger for it, hopefully. So yeah, that's just why, again, I'm always an advocate for the bad things that have happened and will continue to happen. It's not like they don't. My God, I have some really horrific days and times that hit me. But the difference is when you have a peace and when like you're walking with him, it's different. I had something there like last week, and man, like it would have broke me. I would have been like in a funk for like quite a while and probably would have made myself sick. And then I just said, you know what, Lord, if this is in your will and this is what you want for me, then so be it. And I just kind of got on with the rest of my day. And, so I think we do as humans worry, and we walk in the flesh, of course. So I'm not condoning any behavior that doesn't, show what we do as humans. We're going to get angry and sad and emotional, but there's a difference in the longevity of staying in a funk or with anxiety and stuff like that. Because listen, I was a walking anxiety attack for most of my life. I have suffered major chronic anxiety, bouts of depression, and I empathize with all people who go through mental health, suicide, you name it. But there is a difference when you're walking with him because you have a different outlook. You have a different peace inside. So it doesn't mean you're not going to get scared or fearful or angry or anxious. Of course, you can't walk and breathe in this earth without, days like that. But yeah, like I said, the longevity of those times do not, exist as long, I guess.
So when you went through everything, I guess I already know the answer, but that's when you picked the guitar up and that was your weapon of fighting back, telling your tales of that.
Yeah, and oddly enough, even there are songs like my song "I Swear," which is what I like to call my mental health awareness song. I wrote that in April of 2020, which then I realized, dang, like I was in that whole other world when I wrote that, when the Lord gave me that one, because I heard this voice saying, get your pen and paper. But Helping Hand, my album, certainly has a few of those songs that just really cut through, especially Saving Grace, because that talks about how the devil wants what he once had and he's not getting it back. It's like I wear the helmet of salvation now, and and he comes out to tempt me, but and that one seems to be a song when I do it live that people really like connect with, and I think for that reason, and I always know that not everybody in my audience or who listens or who is even coming on today, might have that within them. But that's why I think as well, my canvas, like my outward appearance, I think the Lord let me go through like getting most of my body tattooed and having a rock and roll lifestyle and going through all of that world so that I can be that bridging gap between that world and this world. Because I'm not in a pink dress going, I love Jesus and I sing all about the good things.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's maybe I feel like maybe people think I'm more approachable, or they think, oh, well, if she can do it, you know. And I
think the pink dress thing, like you were saying too, you don't believe it. That you're just like, because you're coming off as Miss Goody Two Shoes when you do that, you know. So
exactly.
Here's a girl that went through it, you know. So I know I could talk to you even if it wasn't a podcast. I was like, here's a girl I could easily talk to. Where the girl would be like, yeah, okay, you know.
I do love the shock factor though. When I'm not doing like a ticketed event or maybe even a festival, and like I'll get, you know, people who walk in and, you know, I just get the kind of like, you know, kind of like a disgraced look sometimes. I trust me, I'm really good at reading people, and it's usually like older generations and
they're always gonna hold tattoos and different.
Oh, of course. And I love it because it's an opportunity then for me. As soon as I start talking about Jesus or mental health, then they're like, wait, what? This makes no sense. So it's like reel them in for the wrong reasons, but keep them for the right ones. And it's beautiful. And I think if I can just show people through example of like, just maybe don't judge a book by its cover, like, you know, but we're all subject to doing that. I do it too. Trust me. It's like nature.
But we're all individuals. We all have our ways of doing that. I don't care who you are, you know? Yeah, it's totally. But so Helping Hands, was that an album that a record label put out, or did you work and do this completely, release it like solo by yourself?
Yeah, completely independent. So the only time I've ever really had a record label and management and on all of that kind of stuff was back when I was out in Europe. So I was in a female heavy classic rock and roll metal group called Thunder Mother. And we were signed to Warner Music at the time, and then another Swedish label. So, you know, we had the manager and the tour agents and the touring booking agent and the label and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, all we had to do was show up and do the craft. Don't get me wrong, that took a while though. But there was a luxury definitely behind that. But no, since I've been in the States, I have been completely independent. So I haven't got like any kind of body who works behind the scenes. It's like I answer all the emails. I do all the logistics for everything. I do all my socials. I run my website. I do my touring, the logistics, the bookings, the everything. And I never say this to want to say, oh, it's all me. Trust me, I would love, you know, a set of hands, but it just hasn't worked out that way yet. And I think a lot of people just don't know what to do because I'm doing everything. And I'm like, but I'd love to delegate whatever jobs I could, but sometimes it's easier to do it yourself because obviously by the time you delegate things, you could have just done it. And so it's hard.
I see why you're friends with Alyssa. You do it all.
Yeah, she's on here, yeah. That's another example of somebody who hustles and she does it herself, and it's inspiring to watch it, you know, through another.
I'm attracted to bulldozers, like your kind, her kind, like me. Like I'm doing indie films. It's like I don't like delegating because they're not fast enough when I do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I give you the keys to the car and you're not moving the car, I'm going to pull you out of the front seat and drive it myself.
Oh, this is perfect. Yes, I know. It's such a balance, isn't it? Like, and this is where, like, I think people initially were like, oh, why don't you just get an intern? And I was like, an intern would cause me more stress than I put on myself. And that's no offense to an intern. But at this point in my career, I will need a major label or a major manager or somebody who just already knows what they're doing, already has the context, but for me, it's more of a relationship.
Yeah.
more of like what's the word? Like it's more of a personal thing. Like they must be able to, you know, respect me as an artist and vice versa. I don't want to be a business model. I'm not here just to make you money. You need to believe in what I'm doing because I'm on a calling and I'm not here for the money and the fame. I'm here to help people and make a difference. So yeah, Helping Hand was completely independent. It's a lot of work. I thought I was going to put out 2 albums this year. That was just like the stupidest idea I ever had, ever. Yeah, I'm going to put out a Celtic record by the end of the year as well. Yeah, no, that's not happening, Claire.
I always say I'm going to put 2 movies a year. Yeah, that never happens either. So, yeah.
In hindsight, it's great.
Yeah.
Or I could have done an EP, but I really want to be a full Celtic thing. And the thing is, as well, with me, I hate being the person who's constantly after people, but like I'm running on other people's schedules. So like when I want everything like ding, 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 but not everybody's like that. And so in the South, everything takes 3 times as long. So now I'm learning if I need a song for September, I'll pretend and ask them I need it like 2 months before.
Yeah. There's a lot of Jedi mind tricks. You can I do it all the time.
Yeah. So like with your movies and stuff, like, yeah. So are you just pumping it? Is it like pretty much one a year then, or?
I try to be. I just released a short film, which is I have a series called The Dark Military. It's like it's it's a horror movie series. But the last one was a feature film, and I'm getting ready to make a second one. But I've thought of this short story that's in between. So it's technically I've made mission 1.5. You get it? Like there's a half a part in between, but it's a short film. But everyone can watch that right here on this channel on Average Superstar TV. It's free on YouTube, called The Dark Military Rogue. I released that like 2 weeks ago. So thank you. I'm just doing press for that. I'm trying to target summer next year for the second one. And again, you know yourself, it all depends on finances, but like you're already telling people like, here's what I got to pay for this particular role. This is what I got for the crew. These are the days I need you. No, I can't move the dates because you want to go on vacation that week. I'm like,
timelines, yeah.
If people ask that, they're like, oh, well, if you move it to this week, I could do it. But like, there's a million people.
You never get anything done.
Yeah, but there's a million people that do your job. Why do you think for a second I'm going to? Yeah. Well, like a film usually consists of easily like 10 crew members, usually more, sometimes less, and a cast of like at least 20. Then there's the people that property that you're using, that they're going to be there. Yeah, and then there's a little of this and that. There's always 50 people. You think for one person I'm going to change everything? Yeah. That's like you saying you want to record it and have something ready to go on tour in January, but the studio you record on is like, oh, I'm going to shut down until February. Yeah. So why don't you tour in April to benefit them? Like, no, it's not how it works.
And that's, yeah, it's a definite, like, it's a dance when you're working with a lot of people. And, like, I don't think a lot of people realize all the parts that it takes. You've got your studio, your producers, your mixers, your mastering engineers, then the stores. You have to get, like, there's cutoff dates for getting it into distribution that I always have to do. And then I hate pushing people, but I'm like, if I don't get the track like by Friday, I'm going to miss my deadline date because it has to go in 3 or 4 weeks beforehand. If you're printing them, like the album, I had to get it in within a certain time frame to the store so that they had enough time. And then I had to go in, check the songs work, they're in order. Like there's a lot of moving parts, and logistically it can be a nightmare. And one person can throw the entire thing off.
Always.
Always.
Yep. Yep. One thing could have easily happened. It's like that. It's like you said, or if maybe you had a tour plan, and this band was going to help you out that was much bigger, and all of a sudden they decide to cancel, and now you're like, ooh, like I could still release this, but should I hold out for a little bit? Like, should we try? Like,
oh no, 100%. It's like Yeah, that's why I think I do like deadlines. I love working towards, and I've learned to delegate these deadlines to people too, because if I say no rush, I'm never getting it.
No,
I'm really learning that.
I'm not attracted to people that aren't hungry. Like I'm talking about the person that they're literally pacing like a lion, like because they want to work, or you got to push them out of the studio, you got to push them off the set because they're everywhere, and not just film and music, but there's the glory hounds that just want to go out and tell everyone what they are, but they don't put out any content of any kind. You're just like,
Yeah.
stop, don't talk like this. Please put the work in, then we'll talk. Just put the work in, you know?
Yeah. Well, people who talk a lot really typically are doing so because they're still trying to prove themselves a lot of the time. And that goes with all aspects of
Yeah.
industry.
They're trying to prove that there's somebody without a resume. And I'm like, make your resume, do the hard work, because this is hard work.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why film and music and the arts, like they're very similar.
Yes.
You know, they
and it's a struggle because our industry between the two of them, but it's not the best money making. There's ways, but a lot of time we lose.
Yeah. Well, that's why people who do it, they're doing it because they're passionate about it, and
because we have to create.
Yeah, and it's a gift.
Yes.
You're gifted this ability to do things that people could spend their whole life going to school for, but they're never going to have the natural talent that somebody has that's gifted with a voice or an acting skill or a painter or whatever, you name it. And that's why it's so beautiful that when people have a gift, that they take that and they run with it. And I always believe if you're doing your calling and you're doing it for the greater good of humanity, you'll always be successful, because success isn't the same for everybody in this world. For me personally, like those messages I receive from suicide victims, or just even this weekend alone, like getting people who literally write you to say like, I've inspired you, like, wow, like how some of my lyrics have helped you or somebody through a dark time. That for me, that's all the success I need. Like, likes on Facebook or Instagram and
they're artificial.
Like, I mean, it never fulfilled me at the best of times, and it certainly doesn't do it for me now. Me connecting with people and somebody coming up and looking me in the eye with tears in their eyes saying like, thank you for saying what you're saying, thank you for doing what you're doing. Or my daughter decided, like, after seeing some of your videos, that she wants to live another day. Oh my God, like,
that's beautiful. And I think music's the most powerful thing in the world. No matter what era I was going through life, I own 1,000 albums, like all types of music. But like, it's so important because the music, no matter what you're going through, someone's there to talk to you. And this, I know you do. There's artists that you would never 20 years ago that you've known existed, you heard over and over. You might hold them higher way now, but back then that music wasn't talking to you. But years later, that cycle comes around, and it's stuff you held so precious. Like, I still love this, but this music doesn't talk to me anymore. That they kind of switch roles. Like, bring these albums more forward and put those in the back.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful communication tool that we have. No matter what you're going through in your life, somebody has written about that or sung about it, and so that's why it connects people. It finds you where you are.
They're like books. I always call it.
You know what I was just gonna say? Yeah. It's like a book, and the best-selling book of all time is the Bible, and it's the Living Bible. And I can only know and say this myself because, as somebody who never read it, if you could open a page up, right, and read it, and if it speaks to you like in that day, because that's what you're going through. Yeah. That's awesome. And then you could read it 5 years later and like, oh, that page doesn't really, I don't need that right now. Because
you're a different person. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So music does the exact same thing, but movies evoke feelings. And like you could watch somebody go through a horrific scenario, even like a divorce or a miscarriage or a death or whatever it is. And if it's in the movie, it's like, wow, you can feel that emotion. Same in a song or a lyric. It's just
Everybody has at least 4 to 5 characters in movies that they heavily relate to.
Yeah.
Some of them everybody knows. Some of them be like, I've never heard of that movie, but like that character in that movie is what I feel is me, or at least talks to me the most. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But,
it's beautiful. And that's why we're always put through what we go through. Because if nobody ever experienced bad, how could we ever help somebody? So that's why, like, I try and explain to people, like, never feel sorry even for me personally, like, any abuse I went through, like, has now served its purpose. Like, it's beautiful. Yeah, it can be really bad when you're going through something and it's not exactly ideal, but we're never given any more than we can bear. And then you get to be a light for somebody because you're still standing and breathing after the fact. So that's why everyone goes through trauma. So, and the more you go through, the more you can help people. And isn't that what this world's about? Like, I'm not here for me. I want to see others succeed and be happy. Like, I don't want to live in a world where we're at war or people are in competition with each other. What's the point? Like, just be kind, be respectful, and if somebody does you wrong, wish them well and pray for them. Like, don't just let it go. Just let it go. That's what I try and advocate for too. Just don't let people get to you so much.
So we're getting more towards the end here, but this Friday you have a new track coming out. I think, like I said I would. Is that the next one coming out?
Yes. Again, I wasn't really planning on releasing that one as a single. It'll be the 5th one off Helping Hand. The whole album is going to get released at this rate. Nice. But I was fortunate. I took home an award at the Josie Music Awards there 2 weeks ago or something like that. And so I was like, oh, maybe I should then release that one if it got recognized. And so, yeah, it's just a nice little song that's kind of, touches on the fact that I want to leave this world a better place than I came into it, like leave a small imprint. And, I came in alone, I'm going to go out alone, and all I want to do is make a difference. So it's just a song about that, really.
Yeah. And ugly enough, we're a few weeks away from December, and you got a Christmas song coming out?
Yay. Yeah, it's my first Christmas single. I've never released a Christmas song. I've been a writer on some that have been released, but yeah, Feel Good Christmas. I wrote it with Bray Noel and Corey Lee Barker. So I'm releasing it on December the 1st. So I have to do all the pre-save stuff for it, but I'm going to wait until the single comes out before I land all of the Christmas stuff onto people. But yeah, December 1st it happens to be on a Friday. So I thought, why not? It's going to be fun.
Clare, honestly, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your world with us and being that open. I think that's amazing. I thank you over and over again for that. At this time, I'm giving you the floor for where anyone could contact you or your music, any plugs whatsoever. Floor is yours. Go for it.
Well, first off, thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate any platform to talk to. And I hope, it's been inspiring for somebody who's listened. And if you're new to my existence, welcome. And the best place you can find me is probably my website, and that's ClareCunninghammusic.com. So Clare, it's the Irish spelling, of course, of Clare. And then all my handles are Clare C Official. So I'm pretty findable. I think there is another Clare Cunningham in the world. She's a triathlon. I'm very active as well, but she's British and I'm not. And that's where the similarities end with the two Clare Cunninghams. It's so funny because I'm like, why does there have to be somebody else in the world with the exact same name who does the same thing? But anyway, all good.
Wonderful. Well, Claire, I thank you again, and I thank this audience for taking the time to check out my show. Hit that subscribe button. I'll be your best friend on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. I will see you all next week. And with that, I use my ending phrase of the party's over.